Hello, I'm AJ.
And I'm Chris.
It is Thursday, and this is Why Wait Till Sunday. Probably a top 5 college football DFS midweek show. All right. We are back for week 2. Week 1, I felt like we made some good plays. I think we made some good decisions with the glaring exception of our smash of the week. But otherwise, I actually thought we did pretty good. I didn't, it's funny. We talk about these things on the show. We talk about them on Saturday morning. And then somehow I still managed to not put everybody in the right, combination, at least for tournament plays. And I know you and me don't always even wind up with the same lineup. So how'd you do? I actually did pretty poorly on the main slate, but I did come back late slate and then the showdown on Monday. So not too terrible.
Yeah, I actually thought we did really well with saving value. I think I think our mistake was Eric Gray not being involved at all, apparently, in the Oklahoma offense, which is bizarre.
What the heck was that, man?
And then, I actually came around on Bryce Young and played him a little bit, even though we talked about we weren't super high on him. But Sunday or Saturday morning when we talked, I had done some more research and I really liked him. So, but I mean, a lot of our cheap guys really did fairly well. Josh Kelly had a good game. I think that Blake Corum, who we brought up, had a smash game. So I think we did really well in terms of value savers. I think Eric Gray really sunk a couple of my lineups. And then, I don't know what happened with the Oregon situation. I think we both played some Troy Franklin. We both played some Devin Williams, and neither took a snap. So I don't both injured, but both suited up prior to the game. So.
Right. And, that is that's the glory of college football DFS, right? I mean, sometimes you don't get to know until after kickoff. I had a lot of Troy Franklin that sunk me on the main slate. I actually came off Eric Gray. And that's the thing is I believed him. We had him as our smash of the slate. You got to stay with us all the way up until kickoff. Things change. And this is a quick turnaround because we want to get the info to you guys. But the slate just dropped last night with prices. Both of us, unfortunately, do have day jobs. We tried our best to be prepared, obviously, to record on Wednesday, to get it out to you Thursday morning. But you have to understand, these things change. This is our first look. This is our first gut instinct. Stick with us either on Twitter. Follow us on Saturday morning. We'll talk about guys that we are, higher on now than we were originally, lower on now than we were originally. So while this is a nice foundational overview, things change between the time we record and Saturday, both on injuries and kind of unearthing new data, new information. So I actually got off Eric Gray. Fortunately, I think I had one lineup with him in it, but wasn't as sold on him as I originally was when we got real excited. So without further ado, let's dive in. We got the week 2 slate. Chris, you did this really nice spreadsheet for us. First one I've got listed here is Pitt at Tennessee. That is a point total of 53 with Tennessee as a 3.5 dog at home, which probably is appropriate. They are not very good, but that leaves an implied team total of Pittsburgh at 28, which is 9th on the slate, Tennessee at 25, which is 13th on the slate. I'm not sure there's a ton of high-end plays, but as we will go through later, I do kind of like a couple of values, at least on Pittsburgh. So that's first game, and take us through Oklahoma State Tulsa.
Yeah, this is an interesting game. Oklahoma State's favored by 17. The total is 7th highest on the slate, 52.5. I don't think Tulsa's the worst team in the world, but I do think Oklahoma State is a lot better than them. I think we'll see a fast-paced game for the most part, and I think that there's some value to be had, especially on the Oklahoma State side. But with a spread this large, there's there's a couple things to consider when we really talk through the play. So, but I am excited for this game.
Well, yeah, and Tulsa, I believe, just lost to UC Davis, FCS UC Davis last week. So they may not be the worst team on the slate, but they at least they weren't very good week one. So East Carolina travels to your neck of the woods or former neck of the woods in South Carolina, is going to play at USC East. And the Pirates are 2-point favorites heading into an SEC team. Now, I can't imagine the last time a G5 opponent headed into an SEC stadium as a favorite. That is pretty wild. But the point total is 54, meaning East Carolina has an implied total of 28 about, and South Carolina only 26. Pretty evenly matched game, 10th highest and 12th highest point totals on the slate. So right around the midpoint there for both teams. And that is certainly wild that East Carolina can go in after a loss, mind you, last week and still be a favorite at South Carolina. Ohio State, Oregon. I'll let you walk us through pretty much the marquee game on the slate, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's got the highest point total at 63.5, and Ohio State is the second highest implied team total at 39. They're 14.5 favorites. Oregon's missing a lot of pieces. They're missing, it sounds like Kayvon Thibodeau isn't going to play. They're missing key assets in their secondary. Ohio State got off to a rough start last week. I think CJ Stroud had the first game jitters, and I don't think Minnesota is an easy place to play in, but they're heavy favorites, and Oregon is playing at 9 a.m. their time. So we'll see how this game shakes out, but I think there's a couple plays on Ohio State that have some nice value.
Sure. I agree with you there. Florida, another interesting one. Florida travels to Tampa to take on South Florida. You don't usually see Florida traveling to lesser opponents like this. And after South Florida got eviscerated by NC State, I believe it was like 45-0 in Raleigh. Florida comes in with the number one implied total on the slate of 42. The point total on the entire game is 57, which ranked second highest on the slate, which kind of tells you something that a point total of 57 is the second highest on the slate for college football. That is a little unusually low for what we normally see. And then to wrap it up, South Florida has one of the lowest implied totals on the slate with only 14.8 projected points. So looking to be a massive blowout. And so we will talk through what that entails in the coming minutes here. But Rutgers going to Syracuse, Chris, what's up there?
One of my other favorite teams. I get to see Rutgers and South Carolina play this weekend. So what a treat for everyone else. But this game is two teams who had a very successful week one. Rutgers blew out Temple. It wasn't even close. They scored 61 points, and Syracuse beat Ohio pretty handedly. I like this game because I think this game is going to be close. These two teams are kind of middle of the pack in terms of their implied T total on the slate. The overall total is 51.5. That's not super sexy, but it's going to be a close game. So I think that a lot of pieces are still going to get run, and a lot of players are going to still have usage. So I'm interested to see who wins this game. I actually think Syracuse is gonna beat Rutgers, but I hope not. I'm a Rutgers fan, as painful as that is to say.
Man, learn something new every day. I did not know you were a Rutgers stan. Yeah, Rutgers ran, I guess your stats here on the sheet says 80 plays, which I don't think that's an average from last year. That's what they ran last week, right? Yep. So granted, it was a complete blowout, but that's a lot of plays. 80 plays is a lot. So you got to like it if they're going to run fast up in New Jersey. That is something to remember for fantasy goodness. Notre Dame and Toledo. This has to be at Notre Dame, right? It's got to be. I think it is. At Notre Dame. Not that it really matters, but it would be weird if they were traveling to Toledo. Total of 54, fifth highest on the slate, but Notre Dame, fifth highest single team point total at 35. Toledo way down the list, only projected to score 18.8 points. Not so great. I guess the question is, and we'll talk about it, I suppose, but Notre Dame did not look sharp, especially on the defense side of the ball against FSU, giving up 35 points, I think it was. And they're coming in on a short week, which in college rarely happens. But we are talking about wasn't it a Monday night game? I guess it was a Sunday night game, and now it's going to be a Saturday day game. So a little bit of a short week. I think that game is a little more interesting than it at first glance. And Georgia UAB should be a blowout. What do you think?
Should be a blowout. Georgia's 26.5-point favorites, and UAB's implied team total is only 9 points. So this is going to be, I think, a beatdown. Georgia should have their way with them. Georgia's defense is top 2, maybe number 1 in the country. And their offense, I think, should rebound nicely this week. So there's not much to say, except I'm so sorry for UAB fans.
Well, if they score 9, they will have done better than Clemson.
That's true.
California going to TCU, I believe. Yes. And this is a game that California is projected to win pretty handedly.
Sorry, I messed up the spread here. It's TCU's favorite, 11.5.
Oh, okay. So yes, that makes more sense. TCU at home,
Yes.
favored by now I think it started at maybe 9.5. Now it's at 11.5. So the point total is 48, meaning Texas Christian, that would be, do some quick math in my head, about 35 total points, and California only down like at 17, 18 total points. So TCU certainly would be the team to kind of look at here. California coming in at one of the lowest projected point totals on the night, or on the day. Texas A&M travels to Boulder, Colorado in an interesting one, out of conference away game. You don't see that very often. What do you got for the Buffaloes and Aggies?
The Aggies should do great this game. They're 17.5-point favorite. The spread is only 51.5. That's kind of a theme this week. There are not a lot of team totals that are particularly high, and I think you mentioned earlier, I don't know how they're choosing these games, but we do not have a lot of interesting games on the slate either. But Colorado had a good week last week. They ran the ball a ton. It was Brandon Lewis's debut, but Jared Broussard, Rashad Clayton, a lot of those guys got run. I think Texas A&M is just a much better team, and I think that there's some value in A&M that we can capture for our lineups this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the talent differential there is massive. I don't think home field can overcome it. Ball State goes to Happy Valley to play Penn State. That point total is 55.5, which actually is the third highest on the slate. So don't gloss over Penn State, Ball State. But really, the bulk of that work is Penn State projected to score 38 points as 22-point favorites. So again, the theme is blowout city this week, and Penn State is interestingly enough favored to score some of the most points on the slate, where Ball State comes in near the very bottom against Penn State's good defense. We saw them kind of make mincemeat of Graham Mertz and Wisconsin last week. The only question would be, are they going to be a little bit, hungover, kind of a letdown game type thing? And Ball State has a good offense. They have a very good offense considering for the MAC. Do they have a good offense up against a Big Ten quality defense? I don't know, but it is a good offense with a decent, like, 6th-year senior veteran quarterback. But they're not projected to score very many points. Speaking of defense, talk to me about Iowa State and Iowa.
Yeah, this should be a defensive throwdown with two of the country's probably better defensive teams. Iowa just demolished Indiana last week, and that game was supposed to be close. Mm-hmm. I think Iowa really showed their potential as a team, and while Iowa State's favored in this game by 3.5, I think Iowa might win outright. I think Iowa State left a lot on the table last week versus Northern Illinois. I think that they are reeling, and while this game total is 45, which is the second lowest on the slate, there are a couple plays here, but again, this is going to be a defensive slugfest.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for fantasy purposes, I kind of think Iowa games are going to just be uninteresting for the majority of the season. I think that gets us through all 12 games, unless I missed one.
Not that I counted.
Okay. All right, so that's the slate. The story is defense. The story is not a lot of games where you just, you want everybody in the whole game. So I think stacks probably don't have to happen this week. And just kind of giving a broad overview. I don't know if you've thought about it, but it looks like, touchdowns are always at a premium. But honestly, if you get a guy who scores 2 or 3 touchdowns, he may lead the entire week in scoring at even maybe 2 touchdowns. Obviously, 3 touchdowns, you're always in the running to lead the week in scoring. But you may not have a lot of like double, triple dongs in this slate.
No, I agree with that. There's a lot of low point totals this week.
Right. Okay. So, I want to go over the positions, of course. Now, quarterbacks. I have looked at this slate, and there's just not a lot of quarterbacks that I'm very interested in rostering. Start at the top and tell me what you think.
I agree with that. I was struggling to figure out who I wanted to put in my lineup this week at quarterback. I can't justify Emory Jones. I have no idea what that both Richardson looks like, and at 9,000, that's just I'm not doing that. Jack Cohen, I think, is fine. 8,900. He doesn't have rushing upside, and I really don't expect another high scoring game like last week.
I think he had like 4 touchdowns.
He had like 330 and 4. That's just not repeatable for Jack Cohen. Knowing who Jack Cohen is,
right?
I don't foresee that happening again. The top 2 guys I think are just too pricey. Then we got Max Dugan, who is up there because of his rushing, but he's only hit the 300-yard bonus once in 23 games, and he's thrown for more than 1 touchdown in 7 of those 23 games. With them being such heavy favorites at 11 and a half, I just don't see how he can pay off at that price point. And those top 3 are just, I have no interest in really.
Yeah. I mean, I've rostered Dugan before. I know one time I had to, he bailed me out like an 80-yard run in the 4th quarter, for a touchdown. So Dugan's a guy that you definitely are hoping for the rushing upside. He can run 2 in. He can have 60 yards on the ground plus 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's 18 points by itself. But yeah, I mean, he's almost guaranteed to not hit the passing bonus. Rushing bonus may be difficult to get. You're going to hope for a lot of touchdowns, which he can. I mean, he can get in 3 times for sure. But I agree with you there. The next 2. So I did something last week for Saturday morning, and I'll probably do it again because quick shout out to Prize Picks. So this is an app. If you are listening to this podcast and you have not checked out Prize Picks, you really need to do it. It is essentially daily fantasy with stat totals and point totals. Fantasy point totals. So they do have individual players, and for our purposes, they do have college players. So for instance, you can bet on over under Breece Hall 103 yards or whatever you choose. I mean, rushing yards, passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns, blah, 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 all that stuff. However, I do that. You do that. We like Prize Picks, but additionally, I can use it for kind of an impartial baseline as to what the expectation for yardage totals might be. And what I did last week was divide that by their salary on DraftKings, just to kind of get an idea of like where's the value. I mean, DraftKings projected points is one thing, but this is another independent agency that is putting out lines for point totals or for yard totals. So what I found is, you said the top 3 not very interesting. I agree with you. You have to kind of go down to Kenny Pickett, I think is 4th or 5th on the list. He's Pittsburgh's quarterback, and he comes in among the quarterbacks that had a yardage total on Prize Picks. He was the 5th best basically passing yards per dollar spent for the quarterbacks here. So he's kind of interesting, 8,500. I'm not scared of the Tennessee defense. And, Pittsburgh's got some interesting weapons. Addison is good. And they threw a lot, granted, against the Cupcake last week. So I don't know where you stand on Kenny Pickett. I think he probably doesn't have 300-yard upside. Probably. It's not impossible. He's done it before, but I wouldn't bet on that. So that makes 8,500 a little hard to stomach, but in a week where there's just not a lot of quarterback action, I don't know. He's kind of in play for me. Maybe stack with Addison or something.
Yeah, he's fine. I probably won't play him. CJ Stroud is 100 more, and I would much rather play CJ Stroud. It's not even close. I think CJ Stroud has a good chance to hit the 300-yard bonus. And the 300-yard bonus, for those who aren't super familiar with scoring for DraftKings College, is when a quarterback hits 300 yards passing, a running back hits 100 yards rushing, or a wide receiver hits 100 yards receiving, they get an extra 3 points on top of that as the 100-yard, 300-yard bonus. So that's 30 extra yards, 3 extra receptions, however you want to break it down, which really matters in these high-scoring contests. So when we talk about the bonuses, that's the context for these numbers. So I think Stroud has a good chance to hitting that bonus. He struggled a little bit last week. I think a lot of it was nerves, but they did just give up 298 yards to Haener. And I kind of like Haener, but I think Stroud's probably a better quarterback and he probably has better options. And that secondary is still missing key pieces. So I think Stroud is probably my favorite high-priced quarterback this week.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. And when we talk about the receivers, I think there's a stack potential there for Ohio State for sure. Then we got Anthony Richardson. He's going to split time with Emory Jones. Haynes King was bad against Kent State. Colorado's not scary, but he was bad against Penn State. Sean Clifford does not really pop in any particular way. He was not overly impressive last week against Wisconsin, but now we get Ball State, and he didn't pop in terms of the price per passing yard, but he's going to give you some stuff on the ground. So it's not just a passer. You talked about him a little last week. Kind of liked him a little bit. Do you like him more against Ball State? He's coming in at 8,100, so not super cheap.
Yeah, he's not really. I think they're just going to run again. And I know that he has rushing ability, which is probably the reason that he's priced up. But there are guys that I like that are cheaper than him that I think have similar floors and a much higher ceiling. Okay.
All right. Let me just highlight a couple of guys that did pop for me. One is Holton Allers. Eastern Carolina going up against your Gamecocks. But he's just so cheap, 7,100. And according to Prize Picks, he is actually the best point per pass yard value on the slate. He won't give you a lot on the ground. So you are counting on the on those passing yards. But I think 300 yards is in play for him.
He's hit the bonus 7 of 21 games that he's played, and he's barely missed the bonus in two of those games, hitting 295 and 296. So, he absolutely has 300-yard potential, and that's the kind of South Carolina secondary. Lost Israel Mukuamu, who is he's a fairly good safety. Hey, he can get drafted in the 4th round, and they also lost J.C. Horn, was the top shutdown corner in the draft. So I like him this week as well. I think he could put up some points on the Gamecocks defense. I think the strength of that defense is really the front 7, and I think he could probably exploit some of our weaker corners. So I like Allers a lot as well. He's probably my favorite per dollar play on the slate among quarterbacks.
No, I agree with you, and he popped for the Prize Picks line agrees with that. The other one I wanted to bring up was I probably can't do it. Maybe it's a guy to bet under on Prize Picks, but Prize Picks kind of like Brock Purdy, Iowa State, playing Iowa. He is priced way down on this slate at 6,200, which is really low for a quarterback on a good offense, but it is Iowa, so probably not great. What do you?
Yeah,
you can't play anyone against Iowa, I guess, but
I will not play Brock Purdy on any lineup whatsoever. I'm not playing Brock Purdy. That is a 0. The one cheap quarterback that I will play is Carter Bradley at Toledo. I think
sir.
I think he's gonna have an okay week. No, Notre Dame's defense secondary is good, right? We saw Kyle Hamilton this week. He's a phenomenal player. So let me preface this with he's only 5,700 for a reason, right? But I think he has 300-yard potential. He was extremely efficient last week, but he's so cheap that he can pay off a lot and really save you value to get up elsewhere. I really like Carter Bradley, and I don't think Toledo's that bad of a team. I think Toledo's one of the better G5 teams out there, and I think Bradley could. I mean, I don't think it's out of the question that he may be is 3.5 to 4x, so he scores between 16 and maybe 23 points. But if that at 5,700, you're going to be hard pressed to find better value than that, even that.
Yeah, I mean, he's already in one of my very first lineups that I was messing around with today. He just fit at the end there. And I was like, well, he's a starting quarterback. So I looked a little bit into him a little bit more. And like you said, yeah, very efficient. Last year, he was efficient as well. Incredibly. I mean, last week it was Norfolk State. So let's take it with a grain of salt. But yes, absolutely on a pass, yards per attempt type situation. Very good. Doesn't run a lot. The other problem for Toledo is they have this backup QB they really like, and he is a runner. And so they put him in for some packages, some different things like that. They messed around with him against Norfolk. He had a good little game. I actually wish he was the starter and we could just say, hey, he's a dual threat, blah, blah, blah. But it's going to be a package situation. So he may vulture a short yardage touchdown with a run or something like that. But I think ultimately you're right. He's so cheap, Carter Bradley, that he can lose a series or two and it may not matter too much. I'm with you there. The other guy you can consider, and you may need to, because I do think we're going to be paying up for some teams and not messing around with the middle tier very much. But Brandon Lewis is 5,900, and simply because he runs. He is a very cheap quarterback who runs and can give you 60 yards, maybe get in the zone on the ground. That would be 12 points. Against a good Texas A&M defense, it's hold your nose and do it. But, I think between Bradley and Brandon Lewis, you have some choices there for very cheap quarterbacks that can pay off. And we're going to need them. We're going to need those quarterbacks because a lot of the mid-range guys, like we said, I mean, I was throwing out names and you're just puking all over the place. So it's not the mid-range is just not that interesting outside of Holton Ahlers.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I don't like Brandon Lewis as much as you do, but I understand the process to get there.
Right. No, I don't love him.
I won't fault
I don't love him, but he's a running quarterback at under 6K. I mean, crazier things have happened. Okay. Running backs. Obviously, we have, a major letdown from last week. Breece Hall comes in again at a $1,000 reduction off his 9K price last week. And going against Iowa, is he out? Is Is everyone out versus Iowa?
I don't know. That sigh kind of sums up how I feel about playing him this week. So he had 27 total opportunities last week, which I'm defining as rushes plus targets. Mm-hmm. 27. That's a lot of a player of Breece Hall's caliber, right?
Yep.
We think Breece Hall's as good as he is. I mean, he could probably score against Iowa. He could put up 100 yards against Iowa. I don't think that's totally out of the question. I think it's a question of ceiling with him. But I will say I will be playing him because I think that he'll be contrarian. And so I'm not going to go out of my way to play him. But I'll plug him in here and there where I have some savings left over because I know that he's basically like a 25-touch lock. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to say about a lot of running backs on this slate.
It is. No, I think that's a great process. I think he will be contrarian because the initial gut reaction is, oh, it's Iowa. I'm not paying the most expensive price on the slate for Iowa for a team going up against Iowa. But you're right. The volume is there. And you know what? The best players are, the best for a reason. And he really is one of the best running backs in the country. A lot of people think he's going to walk into an NFL team next year and probably start as a rookie running back. So you're telling me the guy, if he's that good, he can't get past Iowa, who's a good defense. Don't get me wrong. It's still college defense. I mean, if he's that good, people are projecting him to potentially be back into the first round NFL draft pick. I think he could handle even a good college defense. So if he's really that good, maybe it is worth the contrarian move. He should be matchup independent. I don't know what the hell happened last week against Northern Iowa. I mean, very good chance it was a look ahead situation to Iowa. I don't know. That was wild to me. Zamir White versus UAB. Man, I know it was rough sledding last week against Clemson, but they're going to give 3 guys 8 carries. I mean, that's how they're going to run it at Georgia, it seems. I do not see any way Zamir White gets even 18 carries. And he's not going to catch any passes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily love Zamir White this week, mostly because I think they're cheaper options that are better. Yeah. But I don't think 101 is out of the question for him at all. But I don't think at his price that's enough to pay off either.
Exactly.
And so I think he has a very solid floor, but I don't think he has a monster ceiling. James Cook is probably going to score a touchdown. Kendall Mills is probably going to score a touchdown. Kenny McIntosh might score a touchdown. I like Zamir White, and I think he's playable in weekly leagues. I just can't justify him this week in my lineup, even though it's a great matchup. I don't know what the split's going to look like. And I bet he's pulled early if they go up like we think they will.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's almost a certainty. Then we got Kevin Harris, who didn't even play last week, I don't think. I'm not touching him I love Kevin Harris, but I'm not touching him until he shows that he's freaking healthy. I mean, who knows? Let's see. I want to go down each player up until I think Goodson. So, Kyron Williams, I think he's probably a great play against Toledo. If we're saying Toledo's kind of good, maybe this isn't as big of a blowout as it may seem. Again, Notre Dame on a short week, that's unusual for a college team. And so potentially, coming off a huge game, national spotlight game. I mean, I could see this being a little bit of a letdown game for Notre Dame. Maybe Toledo has a little more success than we otherwise would have thought. So that means Kyron Williams, plays the whole game, doesn't get pulled in third quarter. He's going to catch passes. His over-under receptions, which I did bet the under because I'll take any running back under 3.5 receptions just because a running back catching 4 passes is always, unusual to me. But his over-under receptions is 3.5. So that's pretty good in a PPR scoring. I'm talking too much. What do you think about Kyron?
No, I like Kyron. He had 24 total opportunities last week. He actually had 30 routes run, which was really impressive and 6 targets, which is really impressive for a running back. So he should be heavily involved, and I think he's more than palatable at his price. For the next 2 guys, I don't like either. I'm just I won't play Maya Williams. It's a split backfield, even though Oregon's rush defense leaves some to be desired because they're probably missing Kayvon Thibodeau. And I won't play Tyler Goodson because it's a tough matchup. Really tough matchup.
Is Iowa State really good defensively? I guess I didn't really.
They're probably top 30. Okay. And I think their rush unit's pretty good. So I just like more. I don't even dislike Tyler Goodson. I don't really like him in this matchup all that much. But they're just better guys that are a couple $100 cheaper that I prefer over Goodson. That I think have probably similar floor, probably higher ceilings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I agree with you. I mean, if I kind of was interested in Goodson, but yeah, I mean, if Iowa State's defense is better than I realized, maybe I haven't done enough research there. All right. Let's talk about Isaiah Spiller. What is he doing at 6,800? How is that possible? Or 6,700? What's going on there?
Whoever did the pricing this week saw that he split carries evenly with Devin Achane. And was like, all right, nope. Spiller's got a low ceiling. I love him. I don't think that we need to talk much about him just because I think he's going to be heavily used, and I'm not worried about the split with Achane because I think that they're such heavy favorites that he'll just get usage. I'm not. I think he can go for 120 and a touchdown. He didn't have a touchdown last week, and I think that was surprising. He still managed 18 points.
Yeah, no, I think there's no reason not to play 100% Isaiah Spiller. I like that it's away. I like that it's at Colorado. I mean, I think they're, like we've talked about before. Okay, they may blow them out, but if they're not going to pull starters until it's 35-0. So if they score 5 touchdowns, I mean, Spiller's going to get 1, maybe 2 of those. So, yeah, I mean, I don't, I'm not worried about pulling him in the fourth quarter or something like that especially on a slate. So keep this in mind too. We've talked about this, especially on a slate that may not have, 40 burgers, 50 burgers from certain players, or, those games that just smash where it's like 62 to 61, smorgasbord. Isaiah Spiller at this discount, he's got a floor and a ceiling. I think he's a great play given this slate as well. If you can lock in even 80 yards and 2 touchdowns, something like that, it's a great play. And he's not even priced up. So, I mean, 100% Isaiah Spiller to me.
Yeah, he's only, quick mental math, 800 more than Devin Achane, and I think that's egregious. Like, I think he's going to have way more usage than Achane.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And we can't really probably tell a lot from the usage against Kent State. I guess you could really try to break it down like first half usage or something like that. But that game was, I mean, they weren't worried about Kent State. Okay. Man, there's a lot of running backs to talk about. We're going to have to speed it up a touch. A guy that I didn't really know anything about, Keaton Mitchell for ECU, had a huge game in week 1. I think 4 carries for 50 yards and 5 receptions for, I don't even know how many yards, but he had at least 1 touchdown. He had 5 receptions for 79 yards and a touch. So that's only 9 touches, Chris, but scored a lot of fantasy points and comes in at 6,600 against your Gamecocks. People also really liked their other running back, Harris. I think it's Rajai Harris, who comes in at 5,500. Talk to me about the ECU running backs against South Carolina.
Harris actually outtouched Mitchell, and I actually prefer him this week because of it. I think that he did run 16 routes and he only had 1 fewer target. So I still like Rajai Harris. I don't like either because they're going to cannibalize each other's touches. So I don't think there's really a path to a big ceiling for Mitchell. I think that, again, like, there are cheaper running backs I just prefer than him on the slate. And I think a guy like Bryant Koback, who is priced $100 cheaper than him, is one of my favorite plays on the slate. And I think,
tell me more, because it's Notre Dame.
Yeah, so
their defense is supposed to be good.
We saw what Jashaun Corbin did last week, so that's part of it. But last season, in 4 of 6 games, Koback had more than 25 touches, and he had over 20 touches in all but 1, so 5 of 6 games. He averaged 4 receptions last season per game, and in both losses where they were playing catch-up, he had 7 receptions each. Koback is a workhorse for that Toledo team, and he's a good player too. I like Brian Koback.
Solid player.
Their rushing defense is a question. I think he's in play at 6,500. He's going to have like 20 to 25 touches. Yep.
Volume trumps everything, and he's going to have it for sure. Man, there's just so many guys that are interesting. Talk to me about any of your guys that you like under 6K. So get me down into the 5s. Do you have any highlighted under 6K that you like?
This is cheating, but I want to bring him up because I think it's important. I'm still playing Noah Cain this week, and he's 6,400, but I like him more than anybody in 6K range. 88% of the team's rushing attempts, 5 receptions, 6 targets on 23 routes run. He is nobody's talking about this, but he's the workhorse at Penn State right now. Yeah. And they are 22-point favorites against Ball State. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention him.
Man, that's great. He slipped my gaze, and that's a great call. I mean, he was 8 for 48, 6-yard average last week against Wisconsin. So it's not like he was terrible. He just didn't have the volume. Did score a touchdown. Do you know how many receptions he had off the top of your head?
He had 5, and he ran 23 routes.
5 receptions. This is a great call, Chris. Very nice.
I really like Noah Cain.
Yeah.
I also really like LD Brown, who had 18 total opportunities. He ran 23 routes, 15 rush attempts. He's the workhorse there too. And then I'm interested in both Florida running backs, Dameon Pierce, Malik Davis, just because it's such a good matchup. I prefer Davis because he's a little cheaper, but I think both will get run. And then I'll go all the way down to Zack Evans, who I know you like, alive and
Bargain
well.
bin. Yeah,
He's
I
a
like
risk, right? But he's probably the best player in the TCU backfield, and they're 11.5-point favorites. So you were taking I think a big risk with him, but I think he'll come in at very low rostership. And I do think he's the most talented player there. And I think he can get some run in a blowout. I think that they might get trying to play him this week. So I'm a little bit interested in Zack Evans. And I know you like him a little bit more than I do, but I still think he's an option.
I like him because, okay, so I'm not going to play him in a double up or a triple up. I may not even play him. And sometimes I throw out a couple quintuple ups, just kind of mix it around to a little bit better odds than those big tournaments. But he is a beautiful tournament play, I think, because, he only needs one run. He can go 75 yards for a touchdown. He has a tremendous long speed at 4,600. And, we don't really know what Texas Christian's going to do any given week. He was suspended last week, but they still gave him some run in the second half. He scored a touchdown. He is, like you said, the best talent on that team. And if he's back in the coach's good graces, I don't think we have to assume he's not going to play. He could easily come out of nowhere with 15 touches at 4,600 with long speed. So I think he's a tremendous tournament play. Don't play him in your cash games, though. That would just be kind of taking unnecessary risk. But yeah, I like Evans just because I think about tournaments a lot. And he's just like your quintessential tournament play.
Yep. He and Kendall Milton for 3,200. Those are my two very bottom of the barrel plays to save value. I think that they both could pay off in a big way.
You think Milton just because of a blowout and he'll get 10 to 15 carries?
Yep. And he's 3,200. So you're so close to the min that all he really needs is to fall in the end zone and maybe get 40 yards, and you're 3x in that.
That's true. Okay. I think we've covered running backs. We do have to move on, but stay tuned for Twitter. Stay tuned for Saturday morning. We will talk about other players too, because there's bound to be some guys that come up for us. Wide receivers. Top of the list is Jordan Addison, who is definitely the alpha, I think, at Pitt. Although there's another guy we're interested in at Pitt this week, but it's against Tennessee. They are effing terrible. Speaking of which, honestly, there's 3 running backs listed on the depth chart at Pitt, and I would take a stab at any. I don't know who's better, but just going back to running backs, I'd throw a Pitt running back if they fit the rest of my construction and just hope for the best.
Yeah, Abaniconda's only 4,300, and he was the buzz through camp, so
yeah,
maybe.
Okay, so, but yeah, we're talking about receivers now. So, Jordan Addison, he's a volume guy. He catches a lot of passes. I'm not sure he's got the tremendous ceiling that you might be hoping for, but 7,700, I don't know. He's just not super inspiring. He's a very good player. But you know what? Let's cut the crap. Ohio State receivers. What are they doing at DraftKings?
I don't know. Garrett Wilson at 5,900. Just
egregious.
Stealing.
He's the smash of the slate, of course.
Stealing. He's that price is stealing.
Yeah.
He out-targeted Chris Olave. Yes, Olave had the big game, but he had 11 targets to Olave's 8. Garrett Wilson had a phenomenal game. He's in almost every one of my lineups, and I think he'll probably be in almost everybody else's lineup also. But come on, he's a perfect stat candidate with Stroud. Olave 7,200. I don't mind playing him either. I'd rather play him than Anais Smith, who's 7,600, and Michael Mayer. I just can't play 7,400 for a tight end. It's just not going to happen. I am the biggest Michael Mayer fan that I know, and I just can't.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. But 5,900 is absolutely insane for Garrett Wilson. I have no idea how they came up with that number unless, I have not done this level of research, but unless Ohio or Oregon has some kind of shutdown corner I'm not aware of, and they expect him to shadow Garrett Wilson the entire game. Otherwise, outside of that scenario, I don't see any world where Garrett Wilson, to me, Isaiah Spiller and Garrett Wilson should be in every single lineup. I don't care what type of contest you're playing. Isaiah Wilson or Spiller and Garrett Wilson. It just makes no sense.
Yeah, I like both a lot.
I don't think you can afford to fade either one. And they'll probably be chalky, but you got to do it. I also like Olave for what it's worth. I did the Prize Picks thing where I did, dollar per receiving yard for the line on Prize Picks. And of course, Wilson was number 1, but Olave was number 2. So I think relative to, his line on Prize Picks is like 97 yards, which is one of the highest ones out there for receiving yards. I think he's a great play as well. Speaking of which, kind of, what's his name? The quarterback, of course, CJ Stroud.
Oh, CJ Stroud.
Yeah. I think that's a stack you can do, and Stroud, and then both receivers. You may have to get creative elsewhere, but I think that's a pretty good play. So yeah, I like both Ohio State guys at the high end. You're right, Mayer's too high. I mean, Dotson versus Ball State.
I like Dotson.
Yeah.
I'm willing to play him. I think that he has huge upside every week, right? He can just get behind the defense. But I think that one, this is a slate where you can afford to not spend your whole budget. And 2, I think this is a slate where you can spend down in other areas to get a Dotson in, even though he's generally somebody I would stay away from. I think that he's in play on this slate.
Yeah. Yeah, I generally would stay away from Dotson as well, but I think, against Ball State, 7,000. But let's just skip down to the other Penn State wide receiver who makes it to our bargain bin, and that's Parker Washington, coming all the way down at 4K. And last year he was basically on par in terms of our market share with Dotson, correct me if I'm wrong, as a true freshman. And I know he caught at least one long pass this past week. But against Ball State, I really like this play at 4K. I'm going to have a whole lot of Parker Washington, I think.
Yep, I like Parker Washington. I think he's a nice price. The only concern that I have is that Keandre Lambert-Smith, who's 3,900, ran more routes. But Parker was targeted a lot more, and I just think he's a better player. I'm not really particularly worried about that. I just think that was a product of game script more than anything. So I really like Parker Washington.
Yeah, and Parker Washington in a lot of ways last year was a bit of a volume guy too. I mean, he was catching a high volume of passes in addition to just, the market share of yards and everything like that. So at 4K, I really like it. I feel more comfortable with him than Lambert Smith. I honestly am not familiar with Lambert Smith on a general prospect level. I mean, he was kind of non-existent last year, right? So yeah, I don't know too much about him. I would go Parker Washington myself. And then we've got the ECU receivers. I think we like Holton Ahlers, so I think we have to talk about ECU receivers. They were weird last week against App State. Tyler Snead's usually their high volume guy. He was like 4 for 47. CJ Johnson, I think, had a touchdown, but otherwise he's a low volume guy, at least according to last year. So do you have a personal bead on ECU receivers?
Yeah, I'd rather play Tyler Snead for sure. That's not really close for me. I think that he's the much better play. I don't think CJ Johnson is particularly good for what it's worth. It was bad last year, so I'm not really playing him. I know he's the second target there, but Tyler Snead is really the preferred stack with him. Yeah.
And then a very cheap guy, Jesse Hatfield, JSI is his first name. He had 3 for 51. He was kind of the third guy on the list last week. Not necessarily a starter on the depth chart, but he's 3,500. And I just think this game is going to have some sneaky fantasy goodness, especially. You're the South Carolina expert. That defense isn't good, right? I mean, they're not a great team altogether. We know
it's like top 60. So take that for what you want. But yeah, there could be sneaky value, like a guy like Shane Calhoun, who is their tight end, but he ran 16 routes last week. Yeah, he's min at 3,000, so I don't think that's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so any other receivers I didn't talk about that you want to touch on?
I'll do a quick rapid fire of my favorites. How's that?
Yes.
So I think Kevin Austin Jr. is in play. He had a good game last week. I think Bo Melton is always in play with Rutgers. Quentin Johnston, he's only 5,100 at TCU's heavy favorite. So I think that he had 8 targets. I like him. Tazir Mack at Pitt. He actually ran 38 routes last week, and he's an $800 savings over Jared Wayne. And so I think that's an interesting play. Aaron Crookshank at Rutgers, 4,400, led the team with 7 targets over Bo Melton. Sam Laporta, a highlight of last week. He's a focal point in the passing game. He's only 4,300. I like him. If I'm stacking Carter Bradley with somebody, I prefer Isaiah Winstead. He was the leading receiver on Toledo last year, and he was only 4,200. I like him as well. One of the best values, I think, is among this receiver group is Johannes Tyler at Ball State. Again, they're playing Penn State. He still had 8 targets, and he was very productive last season. Justin Hall's price way up. I'm avoiding him. Tyler's the one, if you're going to have like maybe Noah Kane and have Tyler on the other side. I think that's interesting. And then the last one that I think we both like is Lucas Krull at Pitt.
Boy, got to find bargain bin.
Yeah, he ran 31 routes and had 5 targets for the Panthers last week. And I think he could come back and have another nice game this week. I think that I'd rather play him than Jordan Addison, for example. I actually would rather play both secondary options, including Tazir Mack, who I brought up earlier. So I think they're both in play, but 3,700 for 5 targets and running 31 routes. I mean, he led the team in routes run last week. I really like to Lucas Krull. So I think that's interesting. And then the last one that I will highlight, which I don't think anyone's going to play him this week, is Chris Hudson, who is the Oregon wide receiver and led the team in snaps and outsnapped both Pittman and Johnny Johnson. He had 1 target, but he's on the field a lot, and they will be down against the Ohio State team. So he's 3,200. He's like you're digging real deep. You're digging through the trash, and you find like a wrapper, and it's real shiny. It could be diamond, or it could just have gum in it. So that's Chris Hudson this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to Krull. If you're not familiar with him, so he's had a very interesting college career. He originally was a pitcher. He played baseball for someone I can't actually remember. Then he transferred to UF. So I'm fairly familiar with him because that's my team I follow very closely. Played tight end for us for like a year or something, but Kyle Pitts was there, so he transferred away. Now he's at Pitt, but he is a big, freaky, athletic type guy. So, the fact that Pitt would like kind of feature him in the passing game to pair actually very well with the smaller, shiftier, more of the kind of a slot-ish guy in Jordan Addison, whereas Krull can be like the big, bully receiver type. But he's a big athletic guy, and it makes sense that he would be good as a receiver. So for fantasy purposes, it's interesting. He's not your typical, inline, high blocking percentage tight end. He is an athletic freak. I love it at 3,700. I mean, I just love it. I already said I kind of like Pickett, although you did talk me off him a little bit. But if you did go Pickett, I think stacking with Krull, or obviously just naked Krull, which we all want to see in our lineups this weekend, of course. Well, yeah, I mean, that kind of does it for the overview, but please follow us. Like I said, these things change. We get injury information, or we just uncover a stat, or, we're going to be doing our betting show next. We're going to be writing articles. And as we intake more information, we do change some of the opinions, and come off of guys and change our stances. So check in Saturday morning. I won't be there. I do have an anniversary date with my wife this weekend, but Chris will be there. Will be there. And we may have some other special guests for you. So Saturday morning, live show called The Tailgate. Check out Chris's written article. It's going to drop tomorrow for the full Slate write-up, so you can see everything we talked about in written form. And, stick with us. We're going to keep pumping it out. This is a wrap for week 2, though. I hope you have a great evening, Chris.
You as well. Let's win some money.
All right, let's do it.